In this section, we will cover what supply chain actually means, and we'll be covering and having a look at the basic elements that you need to be considering when thinking of the supply chain. We'll cover the importance of ensuring good supply chain management from an early stage within your organization. So let's have a look at what the supply chain actually is. Essentially, the supply chain is the network of manufacturers, suppliers, distributors, and end users. So this is the relationship of moving a product from raw materials stage all the way through to delivery to the consumer. So when we're looking at the supply chain in terms of what we want to do in supply chain for our management, it involves the activities of our company that involve the delivery to the client and what relationships that we need to have in place and what management of the logistics between each stakeholder involved needs to happen in order to ensure that what we're delivering the customer is delivered to the customer at the best possible price and efficiency to the customer, but also in the most efficient way so that we make sure that we've profited the most out of that transaction as we possibly can. Number three, within all supply chain and basic supply chains, procurement and then purchasing is a huge part of the supply chain and ensuring efficiency amongst those two things. For our industry, in the construction and the trade industry, procurement and purchasing is a huge part of what we do. If our turnover is approximately 10 million, if our turnover is at a certain, if our turnover generally is at a certain amount, a huge cost of our sale generally comes around procurement and purchasing. So ultimately what's happening is we're buying something, adding value in some manner and delivering it to the client. And then procurement and buying things and stuff so that we can deliver it to the client represents a huge cost of sale for us in the construction and trade industry. This might not relate to all of you across various different industries, because there's a lot of people involved in the construction industry and trade industry that will be watching and learning from this Trade Business Accelerator University. However, for 95% of the businesses that will be involved and be learning from what we do and will be teaching what you do, procurement will represent a huge part of what it is that you guys are doing. Procurement will really represent a huge part of what it is that you are doing on a day-to-day basis. And you're going to want to make sure that that whole part of the supply chain is running as efficiently as it can. And there's a number of ways that you can do this, and we'll be running through that throughout these sections, but you're going to want to make sure that your procurement is running efficiently as it can, so it represents a lesser amount of cost of sale against your turnover. And that's the ideal scenario. So if we're not increasing our prices to the end user, the best way of ensuring, and this is point 4 now, the best way of ensuring our best bottom line profits that we can possibly make are by reducing our costs. And one of the best way of reducing our costs is by having good procurement in place so that we're sourcing items in the best way that we can, in the most efficient way, in the most cost-effective way that we can, so that we can have a much healthier gross margin on our transactions and our top line business activity, so that our bottom line benefits as much as possible. And ultimately that's what it's all about in business. We're trying to improve from a commercial perspective, improve all of our profits in our business. That's, should be one of the number one focuses within your business, and it's how to get those net profits, those bottom line profits as healthy as possible. And good supply chain, understanding your supply chain and then improving every element of your supply chain is a great way of reducing your costs as a company, so that ultimately you're ensuring the healthiest bottom line profits of your company that you can. So typically this is what a supply chain looks like. It's the development of raw materials. So there might be one company in charge of harvesting the raw materials that will make its way to a supplier. The supplier will provide those materials to a manufacturer. A manufacturer will manufacture those materials into something that's then distributed. Retailer will then sell it onto a consumer, and the demand that's created by the consumer creates this cycle. So the fact that there's demand at the very beginning means that effort is put into harvesting these raw materials so that the cycle can continue. So this is typically what a supply chain looks like, and that can be hosted across many different industries, and the construction industry is a huge one for this, because a lot of what we're doing, for example, is installing materials in some shape or form in a way that we're adding value. So as an example, we might be selling bespoke windows and doors. The raw materials might be collected by one company or one entity that's then goes through a logistics cycle to go through a supplier. That supplier will sell it to a manufacturer and a manufacturer. So why is good supply chain management important? Why is management between all of the stakeholders throughout that supply chain and making sure that every element of the supply chain is managed correctly? Number one, it's providing clarity. So this is a good starting point. It provides a benchmark of what's expected of everybody involved. And this is, again, something that we see quite often with small trade businesses. There is no clarity at the very early stages of what the relationship is and what the terms are between material suppliers, between subcontractors, between anybody that might be supplying your business with some kind of service. And that means that it's easy to end up in dispute territory. So where something's been delivered to you and you don't think that it's met the expectation of what you're expecting for it to be delivered. So disputes can arise from a lack of clarity in the very beginning. So clarity is great for all stakeholders involved, because they know what's involved in the relationship and what terms that both people involved and both entities involved are agreeing to. So providing clarity is really important, and once you have clarity as a business owner, you can plan more easily moving ahead, and you can start, which is number two, looking at creating efficiencies within your business. It's hard to create efficiencies when you don't have clarity on what your actual terms are. If you don't know how much you're paying for copper pipe, for example, or if you don't know how much you're paying your subcontractors to work on this job, and if you don't know how much you're paying for wire drums, as an example, it's hard to try and find those efficiencies if you don't know what they are. So good supply chain management is going to give you that clarity so that you can create efficiency. Number three, it improves life cycle and delivery on life cycle. So what this means is that if you've got efficient supply chain management, it means that you can deliver more over a shorter period of time. If you can deliver more over a shorter period of time, it means that your overheads and your fixed costs are going to have a less of a diminishing effect on your top line business activities. If you sell 10 boilers over a month and install 10 boilers over a month, your overheads and your fixed costs are going to diminish the profit that those 10 boilers make in comparison to if you sell 12 boilers in a month. If you can increase the amount of delivery that you can provide over a life cycle, your overheads and your fixed costs diminish as a proportion of what your profit is. So you want to deliver as much as you possibly can. You don't want to stretch the business too much, but good supply chain management is going to improve that life cycle so you can deliver more because it's managed well. And then number four, it's going to reduce company costs. This is probably the most direct benefit from having good supply chain management. And as we've spoken already in this section, if we have good supply chain management, we're going to actively reduce how much we're spending on things. And if we reduce how much we're spending on things, it means that our bottom line profits are more healthier by doing the same level of business. It's, an obvious fix, an obvious benefit, quick win to have within our business. So we're going to want to make sure that good supply chain management, so that we're benefiting in all of these areas. We've got clarity with all of our suppliers. We can start improving our efficiencies. Our life cycle is going to improve, and we're going to reduce company costs across the board. So when we think about supply chain, there's lots of areas and lots of different elements to consider across various different industries and companies. But because we're the Trade Business Accelerator University, we're going to be focusing on this module in two key areas, and that's procurement and purchasing, and then distribution and delivery. So these are two, in our minds, two of the key fundamental aspects of what a construction company and what a trade business needs to be focused on in order to scale their business in the correct way. So making sure that they are incurring as little cost in these areas as much as possible, so that your profit is as high as it can possibly be doing the same business activity. So these are the two key areas that we're going to be focusing on throughout this module and going through each section, is procurement and purchasing, and then distribution and delivery. So we're now going to recap on what supply chain is, so now we're going to recap on what the supply chain actually is, and the supply chain is essentially the network and the connection between all of the companies involved with you delivering the product or the service to the end user. And supply chain management is the management of that relationship and the terms of that relationship across all of the stakeholders involved. The reason that we want to do this, and the reason we want to have good supply chain management in place, is because we want to improve the profitability of our business.